Hey everyone, welcome to a new Timeline Park video. In this video I will show you all the parks that were made for stage 5 and I will read out the stories that were made for these parks. Now, we had 11 finished entries this round, with one person even catching up in this round, so that will be really nice to see. And yeah, I hope to see many more people catch up in the next round. That would be a nice thing to have. Alright, I'll start with the first story. Okay, the first story is from Amy. The Island of Sadness, Part 5. After the success of the new ride, The Black Death, Amy and Lily have decided to make a little cycle ride that people can go on. There are some nice fountains and some colorful trees and plants to look at. It's very relaxing there. Another area of the beach has been cleaned up by the newest staff member, Handy Gramps. He is retired and wanted to help out. What a wee sausage. With a new addition to the park, Lily and Amy are now thinking of what can be done with Ollie the Orca. Well, I'm curious about that as well. So let's see what happens in the next episode. Alright, the next entry is from Aster III. Now, he did send in his park a little bit after the deadline, but it was still okay for me to include it in the review form. So actually quite a few people did take a look at the park, and once again it was a really nice addition. Alright, here's the story. The kingdom's expansion into the confluence had been rapid, but limited to only the most adventurous of the king's subjects. If something lasting was to be built, it must appeal to the more mild citizens as well. The next expansion would target the older visitors, and perhaps even those who wanted to bring their family to the confluence. Plans for a lavish garden were set in motion. Families could tour the gardens on foot, taking in the fountains and landscaping. Visitors tired of walking could view the gardens from a suspended train through the canopy. Those who wanted a challenge could explore the garden maze. The king soon discovered most of his subjects were idiots. With this latest addition, the White Pillars region had been tamed. The king was convinced the rest of the confluence would soon follow. Alright, the next story is from Bags. Now, he actually caught up in this round, so you didn't see him in the past 4 videos, but he did actually make his 5th stage for this Timeline Park contest. So it's really nice to see him make all these parks in such a short time. And what's nice is that for every stage he also made a really long story, and it's quite nice to see this park develop. Now, if you want to read the past stories, on my Discord you can find a document with all the stories for all the park, and there you can read them. Okay, I will now just read his stage 5 story. It's quite long, so I hope you're comfortable. Chapter 5, 1971. The Vietnam War, Flower Power, Dutch Bouldering, and a century-old circus. In the last 7 years, the park of the Elysium Hippodrome generated more and more guests. In 1966, the park invested in a small helter-skelter attraction for the kids, called the Twirl. This was built during the Vietnam War, which was in the daily newspapers. The park gives a good moment to disconnect and to realize life is more than Cold War threats. This led to a non-violent passive resistance, known as the Flower Power movement, and was cultivated by the hippies of that time. In line with Flower Power, Clown Nori had an act with the water squirting flower, where a ray of water came out of the flower when Clown Wesley tried to sniff it. Based on the act, a ride was created in 1970, where guests were able to use carts and water cannons to have a water fight with each other. This attraction was named Nori's Squirt Roses. It was a silent protest from the park management to show their disapproval of the Cold War. Contrary to the name, the attraction was surrounded by tulips, as this is the Dutch famous flower. In the 1960s, much land was reclaimed in the Netherlands. the Dutch had reclaimed the South Sea and created land for the growing population. In 1968, the large southern polder of the old South Sea was reclaimed, creating an entire land that later was named as the province of Flevoland. Dutch poldering was also applied in the park, and the small lake was dried to build a new attraction thereon. The year 1971 had started, and it was exactly 100 years ago that Gerard Lambeth, the grandfather of current director Harry Lambeth, had started the traveling circus of the Elysium Hippodrome. It started small with jugglers, acrobats, clowns and horses, but later wild animals made their entrance in the roaring 20s. One of the big showcases were the street parades. The Elysian Hippodrome had given throughout Europe as a traveling circus from 1871 until they had found their current location in 1937. The most impressive animals were the elephants that marched the streets and the carriages with wild animals carried by the horses. A new attraction was installed as an honor to the traveling circus and was named Elephant Parade. Children could ride the mechanical horses that followed tracked rails, and the rest of the family took place in the carriage as if they were wild animals. During the trip, the carriages were traveling through a circus encampment, entering the circus with dazzling lights, and then going through Elephant Square and seeing the elephants act before returning back to the station. Harry Lambeth had followed a course on how to get good at OpenRCT2 for making a nicer looking attraction park for the big celebration of the Elysium Hippodrome. This resulted in investments to improve the monorail station building, providing the circus tent of a new canvas, hire extra personnel, and chimpanzee Olivia was given a partner named Caesar, as loneliness was not healthy for the social animals like apes. The circus animals were getting more stressed due to the crowdedness in the park, and they were relocated to a more quiet part. To relieve the animals further, a big impulse in the court dance act made it the second long show in the park. Also, coaster Bull was renamed to Sanford Mainz, which is named after the bull running in Pamplona. I hope I pronounced that correctly. The coaster was recolored in the typical white and red fashion of this event to give the park a less brown overall appearance. 1971 will be the last year of Harry Lambeth, who was beyond his official pension age and wanted to end his career with a bang. This means he will announce whom of the family will take over the tasks of director to continue the circus family dynasty after the celebrations of the century of the circus have been done. Ooh, that was quite the story. Okay, the next park is the one from me, so let's get on with the story. With the Gerstlauer bobsled, James Deuklink had another successful ride in the park. Many more families came to visit the park on the warm summer days. The queue of the coaster quickly filled to the brim, however, since its capacity was not very spectacular. James realized the park would need another ride to keep the park guests satisfied. He decided it was time to build the park visitors a family ride. In a fresh plot of land, he started work on an interactive horse ride in a Wild West theme, on which the riders would be able to shoot targets, which are placed on many locations next to the track. The ride immediately became very popular with the guests. The park was starting to feel a little bit cramped though. Alright, here's the park from Fidwell. These are prosperous days for Dyna Gas. Rising fuel prices, increased traffic, and corporate support have filled their pockets. They have purchased additional land in order to expand with new rides and infrastructure, including a large dark ride and food court. Finally, they can stand on their own as an independent park, to the point where the mutual access point to Lil Sluggers has been closed off. And Lil Sluggers is now feeling the squeeze of their competition. With improvements to their own park at an all-time low, the possibility of a hostile takeover is ever increasing, much to the worry of their most loyal patrons. A new plaza alone won't be enough to draw new guests to their cheap and outdated rides. who can ultimately capture the hearts and minds of the public. I can't wait to see how this park is going to evolve. Alright, the next story is from Herbart. The new roller coaster was a great success, drawing crowds of thrill seekers to the park. Unfortunately, the high costs of the coaster did not allow him to build another big attraction. Not wanting to let the new fame go to waste though, An Dung ordered a couple of cheaper attractions that could bridge the gap between the mild rides he started out with and the more extreme thrill coasters. He bought some quads of a friend and built a little park through which the guests could race them. He also bought a cheap second-hand slingshot and a used Bayern curve, expanding his park as well as he could. His funds would probably need some more time to recover, but with his steady stream of foreign guests, An Dung was confident that he would be able to grow the park more and more and even build another large-scale roller coaster someday. Alright, and here's the story from JeanPierre. As the new, small, big park is growing, the owners decided to build a ride the chain has never seen before. They built a new dark ride that tells the story of a child who is told to sort out what's right and that he is told not to be like us. The ride has two parts, one part with green plants and trees and one with factory. This second part tells us what we are doing to the world and is told in the ride story. The ride, called Little Tot, is a cooperation between the Sunny Frontiers Company and a Swedish singer, which the name isn't told of because of copyright. The owners also built a new ride to help the younger park guests have more rides to go on. The rides came from a guy who was traveling to fairs with it but decided to sell it. Now known as Running Wind, the ride has already made sure to put some big smiles on people's faces. Also, because the park doesn't have very much space left, the park is testing the tram to make sure they can expand the park without having to worry about big paths, etc. And finally, the Toad Express coaster is broken and is not in very good state, so if the park can't fix it, they have to build something else. Alright, the next park is from Ouradrian 1994. A turbulent season has passed at Southmouth Pleasure Gardens. The spring and summer consisted of attendance records being broken day to day as people flocked to the park to ride the fantastic new launched coaster. However, by autumn, a succession of large storms hit the south coast of England, which caused a landslip at the cliff top. Thankfully, the new monorail remained undamaged due to its sturdy foundations, but countless rocks littered the beach by November. The park knew they had to do something to fix this mess. With so many rocks at the park's disposal, the only logical next step was for the park to build a big rocky volcano to house one of the park's new attractions. The new thrill-oriented clientele demanded more thrilling attractions to accompany Sunset Speedway, and an SNS space shot situated in the aforementioned volcano seemed like the perfect solution. Gugurang, named after a Filipino volcano god who spews lava when angry, rockets guests high into the sky, offering stunning views of the harbor as well as some big thrills. Additionally, the park have also invested in a small second-hand Haas topspin named Sacrifice. Impressive landscaping and thick foliage have helped to breathe life back into this old ride, which is sure to give guests the fright of their life. The rainy end to last season led the park owners to make the difficult decision to retire the crazy golf course and construct a new high-capacity indoor attraction in its place. Sorcerer's Shack is a family-friendly dark ride with whimsical illusions and colorful sets. The magical ride sits at the front of the park in the expanded fantastical family area. The park is also preparing for the future. A new car park has become a necessity and it's thought that a second entrance may be built soon to cater to the rapidly expanding park. Additionally, the park must look to secure the cliff top to avoid any further landslips, which could jeopardize the park's future. Alright, the next entry is from Soap and Butter Sandwich. He decided not to add a new ride like all the other people did, but he did make some quite big changes to his park. The unexpected happened. The volcano, which was constantly rising, finally gave away this month, and one of the sides caved in, causing lava to pour out. Unfortunately, this was on the wooden roller coaster, which promptly got burnt down while in operation. It is now safer. The researcher headquarters also burned down, but the overflow pipes are still working. For the time, the Wastelanders decided to just expand on the village, so they added more houses and stuff, with more coming in the future. They are also planning to add a couple more rides to compensate for the loss of the Woody. They have found a ride called a toboggan, built by a company named Chance, so that should get built soon along with some other stuff. Okay, then here's the park from Trumavarium. Yet another delay for the park management. They were to have the new parking lot ready this month, but the construction company had to shut down because of some epidemic presumably taking place in the world, which made them go bankrupt. The park management is in pursuit of a new construction service to complete the parking lot construction. The park guests aren't too mad about this happenstance, however, since the park has been growing ever since its inception. Tycoon Trumavarium made sure to give the park the glory it deserves by having a total of 3 new rides up and running in the beginning of May. Vulturessa was planned to operate early April, but was delayed due to the bad foundation it was standing on, although that has been fixed now. There's also a new ride in the center of the plaza, outside the Mansion of Love. The ride is inspired by the many rats that roamed the grounds before. The more costly ride that was built up until this point is Residue Zero, located by the far end corner of the park. It's a dark ride situated in and around old parts of the old factory, which the park replaced. This will serve as a reminder that something good can come out of something bad. Alright, and here we have the final story for this month. This story is from Seklar. The Soul Reaver was a huge success for Seklar. It became an instant hit and the park was blooming. Wondering what to do next, he first built 2 new flat rides in the park. A small swinging ship on a real ship and a sledgehammer. After long consideration, Seklar decided a go-kart track was a nice addition to the park, which was actually the first dirt track in the whole of Meridian. With a whole new crowd that's attracted to the park, the growth of the park cannot be stopped. Okay, that was the final park of stage 5 of the Timeline Park contest. Now, if you still want to join, that's possible, but you will have to make a park for all the stages that you missed. For example, if you're gonna join in stage 6, you will have to send in a park for each of the previous stages with a story. And then finally, at the end of the year, when we're done, you will have a timeline park with 12 stages and 12 stories. And then, it will be nice to see your park evolve over time. And hopefully by the end you will have a beautiful full-size park. Okay, I hope you enjoyed watching all these parks and listening to their stories. I can't wait to see how these parks will evolve in the next round, and I hope to see some people catch up who may have missed one or more of the previous rounds. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again in the next one. See you later.